champions, and welcome back to our science lab where we are going to be doing chapter 5 of unit 2, codes and signals. So for this Thursday activity, you're going to watch through as Mr. Chambers reads through this chapter of our CK Science unit 2 chapter 5, and then afterwards you're going to answer 5 to 10 questions based off of the reading to help demonstrate your understanding of this topic. So without further ado, we're on codes and signals, chapter 5. Our big question, and this is getting smaller, is to understand what is a code, okay? Before we begin reading, there is a word to know. A word to know is a gesture, is a movement of a part of the body to communicate an idea or emotion. Most gestures are made with your hands or your head. Things like that, where you wave, hello, you give thumbs up, you smile, different things like that. Those are gestures. So, let's begin. People communicate with each other in many ways. If you smile at a friend, the friend knows that you are happy. Your smile sends a message that tells how you feel. If you nod, your friend knows that you mean yes. If you shake your head from side to side, you communicate the message of no. If you wave your hand as you leave, your friend understands that it means goodbye. Smiling, nodding, head shaking, and waving are gestures. These are ways that people communicate when they are together. What is the role of light waves in this kind of communication? Okay. Well, symbols are ways of communicating. People communicate with gestures. In what other ways do you communicate when you are with others? Well, one way is to speak. You use your voice to make sounds that you and your listener understand as words. The words combine to form messages. The messages contain the ideas you want to share with others. What is the role of sound waves in this kind of communication? Gestures and speech are ways of communicating, but there are others. You don't even have to be close in order to communicate. Humans have many ways to send information to others who are far away. The most familiar way you might know to do is to use written words in a letter, an email, a text message, or typing it on Google Classroom. You're communicating from afar your response. Okay? The written word uses symbols. The alphabet is a set of letters we use for written languages. Each letter in the alphabet is a symbol. A symbol is a visible object or mark that stands for something else. Symbols represent ideas. Letters are symbols that form words. We can combine letters and words in different ways to record an endless number of ideas. We can then send those symbols to different places or publish them in books or magazines. We can draw them on cave walls or on paper. Because of written symbols, people can communicate over long distances and even through time or over time. Codes are a way to communicate. So we communicate through gestures, through speaking, or through writing out symbols like the alphabet. But codes are another way to communicate. People use other symbols besides written languages to communicate. Many of these are symbols that you see frequently. You know what they mean without having to think about them. A code is a pattern of symbols. Codes can be patterns that you see, such as letters or numbers, or something that you hear, such as the clicking sounds of Morse code. Morse code uses patterns of dots and dashes that stand for letters and numbers. The dots and dashes are translated into a pattern of long or short clicking. sounds. The sounds can be sent through electrical wires. People used Morse code to communicate over long distances before radio communication and telephones were invented. So our vocabulary on this page: code, patterns of symbols that can be used to communicate a message, and pattern, a regular or repeated way in which something occurs. Down here we have the Morse code alphabet, and these you might hear as beep, 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 something like that to give a message. So Morse code was invented by Samuel Morse in the 1830s. The coded messages were transmitted using a clicking device. A dot is one short click, and a dash is a click followed by a pause the length of 2 more clicks. Okay. Our next vocabulary word is signal, a symbol sent over a distance, like the bat signal to summon Batman to come and help save Gotham. Just food for thought before we get into signals transfer information. The clicks that are used in Morse code are sent over very long distances. They are one kind of signal. A signal is the way that a word, symbol, or code is sent over a distance. Signals that you can see. A lighthouse projects a bright flashing light out to sea. The lighthouse's lamp is the source of the light waves. Sailors detect the light waves and observe any patterns they see. They recognize patterns as symbols or codes. Every lighthouse uses a unique pattern of flashes. Sailors look at a chart to help them decode each signal and find out their exact location. Light waves are employed in communicating an idea. A traffic light is another kind of signal. It flashes red, green, or yellow. These colors let drivers know whether they should stop, go, or begin to slow down. Begin to slow down, not speed up at the yellow light. Traffic lights help drivers move safely in different directions. They also help traffic to keep flowing. We also have the bat signal, where you have the light projecting the bat symbol up into the sky, where Batman can see it and come to save the day. But we can also hear signals. So signals that we can hear. You learn that each lighthouse has its own unique light pattern. But what about during the day or on foggy nights when sailors can't see the light? Every lighthouse also has a foghorn. A foghorn makes a loud sound that can be heard far from land. Each foghorn makes its own unique pattern of sounds. Sailors can listen to the signal and figure out their location. This is an example of sound waves sent out in a pattern to communicate information. How can you use sound to send whole words or sentences? Items such as a telephone uses electrical energy, and when you speak into the phone, your voice makes sounds. These sounds transform to electrical energy that can travel through wires or cellularly. When the electrical energy reaches the phone on the other end, it changes back to sound. Let's think about telegraphs or Morse code. We learned about Morse code and how it is a pattern of sounds used to send messages. It is sent by telegraph. A telegraph is a device that moves electrical signals from one place to another through wires. Samuel Morse worked with other inventors to develop the telegraph in 1836. No wires? No problem. When you use a two-way radio, you use it like a telephone, but there are no wires to carry the sound energy from one place to another. So how does that work? Well, when you speak, the two-way radio changes the sound energy from your voice to radio waves, those invisible energy. The waves, which are a signal, travel to another two-way radio that is nearby. That radio receives the waves, and the radio waves change back to sound energy. Then your friend can hear your voice. Cell phones work much in the same way. They also change sound energy to radio waves, but with a cell phone you can talk to someone on the other side of the world. That is because the radio waves bounce from place to place until they reach the person that you are talking to. Cell phones are only one of many ways to communicate. Gestures, symbols, and codes all communicate messages across a distance. The signal transfers a pattern. Often, this pattern is made up of light waves or sound waves. So, thinking about what we learned about codes and signals and how we as humans communicate each other using light or sound waves, using that type of energy to cause change, you've got to make some change now. You've got 5 to 10 questions to answer in Google Classroom. Please make sure we're doing it in the Google form. Don't just click the submit button and say you're done when you still have work to do. Put first things first. Work through, think about how we make codes and signals and what their importance might be to society. Answer the 5 to 10 questions in Google Classroom. And with that being said, I hope you have an awesome day, and I will catch you later.